Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
it's been a while since we've done this, right?
Yeah, we took a mellow break.
Yeah. I guess I can make like a little announcement if that is cool.
Sure.
Um, I finished all of my like self-employed work.
Wow.
So I'm
I'm
fully
acting like I don't know.
fully dedicated to Mello, our podcasting app, and this podcast now. So it was a bit rough for a few months, just like editing constantly. But yeah, now I can just think about fun things every day.
Are you excited?
I'm really excited, but it's also like really, really scary. So
What is scary?
everything. If we will succeed, if we will gain funding. But I'm also like, there's nothing I'd rather do. So at least I'm working on something that I love.
Yes. So, do you want me to like introduce Mello a little bit, or
Yeah, let's
'cause you
explain
mentioned
it. We
it.
talked about it in a few episodes, but we haven't really pitched it formally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, to those of you who don't know, Mello is going to be a podcast platform, a video podcast platform actually, that Chloe and I are developing, and it's been super fun so far working on it. And we're kind of like officially tech co-founders together.
Yeah. Whoa.
That is
Crazy.
a crazy journey actually. I would, out of everyone in the world, I would never think that I would just start a new company with you.
You know, everyone asks me like, when I tell them like, oh yeah, I've like started a company with my husband, like they're like, how the hell do you work with your partner? Like, isn't that insane? Like, don't you fight all the time? And like, why would you do that to yourself? All of those points are very valid. Like we do like have a lot of disagreements and share like frustration all the time, and there's never a break. Like we're always working on this idea. But honestly, I don't think like I would want to have a co-founder that wasn't like either a really close friend or like a partner, just because it's like you can't go deep enough.
That's true.
You know, like our whole life is this, and we talk about it all the time. We do it all the time. We live it, we breathe it, and we fight about it, and it makes it better. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, like I have a bias. Like I wouldn't trust startups that weren't built by like people with really close relationships.
Like you wouldn't trust people wouldn't sleeping with their co-founders.
Yeah, like really, like there's like a level of depth that like you know every single thing about me, and that makes this idea great.
Yeah,
you know,
I see it the same way. I think the bond that we created over the past 4 years has been giving me this like knowledge of who you are and how I can actually trust you in the best way possible with the most delicate thing that I think I've ever initiated in my life. Mm-hmm. Because this is, like you said, it's like scary good, because you have no idea where you're going with that. You start your journey, you have your like points that you want to like hit, the milestones that you want to achieve with it, but the general route, you got to create it yourself. Mm-hmm. And you want to be with someone that is actually like, first of all, loves you, cares about you, because it's going to be a lot of hard decisions that you're going to make throughout the process and throughout just building. Building is something that you can't do it overnight. Mm-hmm. It's every day grinding, every day thinking about that. And I would recommend people starting companies with people who they actually have a really close bond with. And I think this is one of our really great advantages, besides from the facts that we both are coming from totally two different worlds. This is something that I think actually was really helpful throughout this whole past few months working on Mello together.
Yeah. And like honestly, more importantly, like not even just talking to tech founders, but talking to like people in relationships. Like if you can't talk about like your finances and your work habits and your aspirations and like build a life with that person, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that's not a relationship in my book.
That's
so
true.
It's like anyone who's like, oh, like I would love to do this, but I don't know if it would be good to like do it with my partner. Like, yes, do it with your partner. Like there's no one better that you can do it with, because that person will just like love you and encourage you and promote you better than any normal person, like that is just a friend or like a coworker or like whoever, you know, like a family member could. Like no one is better than your partner to do that with you. So yeah,
Totally.
Thank you for being like along for the ride. And it definitely is like an all or nothing situation, so that's a bit nuts, but it's fun.
That's just me, I think.
Yeah,
I operate
I knew
on
what I
that
was
kind
getting.
I operate on that kind of risk mostly, but it's been fun. I had a lot of fun for the past few months working on this with you, and I'm so looking forward to just actually like continue building Mellow with you.
Yeah. It's fun. So in the process of building, I wanted to talk about something today. I've been trying to get out of my shell and be more social. And we live in the city, we live in SF, so I've been going to a lot of events and meeting new people, joining tech Twitter, which is, if most of you know me, like I'm coming from like a leftist mentality. That was like my history, and I worked for a lot of like different organizations that were pretty leftist. So going in the complete opposite direction is like pretty insane to me. But I want to talk about my experience, because there's a lot of like positives on both sides that I think like we could use with the flow of like how the world is moving, that I think people are like getting lost in. So I don't know, I guess I'm like, this topic's going to be about like tribalism, and in a current way, like what kind of subgroups are in society right now and what our take is on them. And like, I don't know, maybe we'll find where we belong in that conversation. But
yeah. So you mentioned you come from like a different background than being in the tech side of the society. What is your first impression of the tech community, especially in San Francisco?
well, the like first impression is like, wow, it's so international. And I love that. Like I love being around people who've like been to all corners of the world. Like honestly, when I go to those groups, I feel like people are more worldly than me. And that's like surprising, because I've lived in another country. Like I grew up in California. I know a lot about like other cultures. So it's nice to be in a space that like I don't have to explain like, yeah, my husband is Persian, and then they ask me like, oh, how do you eat the same food together? And like what does he do? How does he hear? Like people in tech will never ask you that, and that is just like such a relief, because I mean, I'm sure you feel it more than me. Like it's you know, leftist mentality will ask you that, I think, sometimes in their own way. So yeah, tech culture is very international. You get to learn a lot of new things. I don't know. I think there's a lot of intelligent people. Like they speak really fluently and clearly, and they know themselves very well, and they're very like confident. They have large networks. A lot of the tech community, I would say, went to like good schools and, you know, just like worked at big companies. That's kind of like the trends that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds like you're having like a positive experience so far. Is it like you're laughing? Is it like that? Did I misunderstand? Like, because you were talking about the positives right now.
Yeah,
so.
like I'm trying to be a little positive, because I don't want to just like hate on tech, because I feel like everyone hates on tech, and that's not productive.
Do you want to hate on tech?
I think the culture around tech, there's an old tech culture, okay? like, okay, so there's a
Define old.
there's a spectrum. I'm gonna go through the spectrum. So I feel like in my opinion, there is leftist mentality that's like, I'm a communist, I want to like live off of the land, I value human experience, and I don't want to do anything with technology, and we should all get paid by the government, and we should do things together as a community. That kind of leftist mentality. So that's like far left. Okay. And then we have people who are like functional in society, who have jobs that are connected to the government, or connected to government funding, that are leftist in the sense like we should support minorities, and we should, you know, put all of our time and energy into building America up for everyone and not just for like white rich men.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's like people in private sectors that are also government funded, but they're really like, they have a lot of meritocracy. So it's like, I worked for a big company, I went to an Ivy League, I believe in the system because the system worked for me, and I have all of this money because of it, and I believe in it till I die. And like, they're really powerful and strong with their mentality, and most people wouldn't see that as leftist, but because I've seen more of a right side of tech, like where it's like AI can bring human innovation and make things better for humans and lift people out of poverty. And it's kind of like a new wave of capitalism that is not toxic, or at least I would hope that it wouldn't become toxic. That is like really exciting. And I'm really passionate about learning like about that world. But that world is so ingrained in the meritocracy world of the old system that it's like really hard to differentiate who is a part of which circle, because it's like they're all just under this tech bubble. But there's like a government tech and there's a human ingenuity tech. Okay. And I want to be a part of the human ingenuity tech that they're like, let's use AI to like better improve the human experience.
Yes.
Better improve like financial situations for everyone in a way that is like feasible and democratic and decentralized. Like that's the kind of world that I want to live in. Yeah. But in San Francisco, it really feels like most of the people pretend to be a part of that world, but really they're just like, oh yeah, I like worked for this company and I worked for that company and I went to this school, and they really haven't really like done any value to the society. They've just like basically just made money off of like coding. Yeah. You know,
it is very like visible to me as well when I go out into tech events that I do encounter with a lot of people that do work at FAANG, like deep tech companies. It's majority of the tech workers in the city are actually working for big companies or big corporations in general. And there's a very small subset of the tech society that majority of them live in the Hayes Valley, that are part of the new world, that are building the new world, and they're trying to actually change the system. And I have met a lot of those people. They're really great. They are very passionate about the future of humanity more than like keeping the status quo or keeping the structure in a way that it's beneficial to them, because we already believe in the, like you said, so-called meritocracy of the system that we were raised within. But I definitely think that the environment in tech is really changing. Like I have met a lot of people that are building within like structures like Y Combinator, or like within newfound schools that are tech schools, that they actually are like, yeah, like Stanford, what, like Harvard, like I don't care about like those brand name Ivy League schools that you went to, because this is our new school that we're doing. Now, we are not doing any of those. Like we already went through our path of like education, and we are mostly leveraging our passion, experience so far, and honestly being young and just believing that the AI world is going to bring a lot of beautiful opportunities for human beings to flourish within. And if we can grab onto contributing to the future of humanity through like using AI, it will be really beneficial for everyone on the planet to use that. And I myself encourage a lot of people to dip their toes into the AI world and try to see what they can do to create like something new within that environment, because I believe that a lot of us we're held back in the tech like kind of like sense that we didn't know how to code, we didn't know how to develop a system, but AI is giving us the capability to do that. And this is just going to change the old meritocracy that we're facing in the society. So I think
I'm betting on that.
There is.
I'm hoping, because so far it doesn't feel that way. So far it feels like all of it's gatekeeped. And yes, you can like create products and do all of that, but you still need to make money to live. And doing all of that at once is hard. So I'm hoping that with the rise of like AI and understanding that normal people can use AI tools to create something that companies used to have to create with hiring tons of people, I'm hoping that funders and investors in the city right now will understand that you don't need to be like someone who went through all these motions or coded for like this many years to build something amazing, because actually like I would argue that someone's mind who has had human experience and worked in a environment that was like pro humanity and can use these tools for their advantage would create a better product than someone that coded and worked under like really toxic systems and is trying to build like a tool that will just go to the toxic system and then like, oh yeah, you made a couple million, but what did you really create? You're just keeping the economy going. You're not like committed to like building something beautiful, and that person is not committed to building something beautiful. They all are just wanting money. Yeah. And I think we will understand in 10 years, 10 years that money is really scalable. It's really accelerating fast with like compute power and all of this. Like it's getting really scalable, that if you're not creating something that is really valuable for humans, you're just like gonna get left out in a second. Like people will forget about you. Totally. I totally agree with that. I also think it's not a surprise that the government has made money expensive in this time period. Like the interest rates are at the highest. A lot of want people to create. Is that what you're saying? This is my kind of like I'm kind of like guessing that's kind of like the direction that the government wants to control the pace of the AI growth, the access to people who can do that, and also the access. Yeah. Wow. And I think a lot of investors, a lot of VCs, like I have like talked to a lot of people who are investors, and one of the main concerns that they have for their own general like business is we can bet on few ideas, fewer than what we could a year or two ago. And I think they also want to invest. They also want to be part of this. They want more than the founders to be part of this, because I'm a founder and I know that the energy that I have for building Mellow, for building a new platform that hasn't existed before with all of the knowledge that I have, is I'm going to succeed. I have that confidence. But investors' jobs are like, I have this like money sitting. I have this capital that I have access to that needs to generate more capital. And I need to be able to freely move that around and make that to work to my advantage. And generate that more so I can have more investments to invest in bigger companies, to grow my investments. Yeah. That's like the whole flip side of it, right? Like we're like all like, oh, I believe in my idea. I'm so excited. And they're like, well, I can't believe in any idea. I have to see the business model because this fund has to grow. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think the amount of energy that we see in the society right now in San Francisco, we were in San Francisco when
the AI boom, the first phase of the AI boom last early like 2023 happened, and there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of young people coming out and wanting to participate in building that new world, that I feel like the momentum is a little bit like slowed down because of a lot of like the structural problems that we have right now, that the old world is trying to keep their power alive. I've read something on Twitter actually today that by 2030, I think there's going to be around like 70 million boomers that will be like retired, and their businesses are just going to be handed down to the next generation. And I feel like we're kind of like approaching a new world, whether we want it or not. I think my general problem is there's a lot of boomers in the economy that are gatekeeping like their businesses from succeeding. And like they don't want to allow new energy and new force come to the market. And I feel like those are finally going to go away. This is just my guess, because I had problems like at startups that I have worked with the boomer mentality, that I think it's very toxic, and it's actually like really not helpful towards the direction that the society wants to go with AI. So I'm really hopeful that will change.
I mean, that would be hopeful, but the boomers will take their money with them.
No, I think they will leave it for they can't. The businesses are left for the grab, and even if their kids are going to continue the work, they're definitely going to be more.
They'll do it in a more innovative way.
They will do it in a newer way. I think it will give a new blood to the economy. I'm not really like betting on that. I think the most important thing that you can bet on is yourself. Like, be aware of your surrounding. Be aware of like what you're building, and be passionate about your project, so you don't have to be dependent on other people. I think one of the most important things that I have learned in the past few months has been how much working on yourself pays off in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And people can see that in your voice. People can see it in your actions, in a way that you present the idea that you have on paper, in a way that you create a manifestation of like that, with like creating an app or creating a website or like a algorithm. Like I'm just full on like talking like,
no, I feel like the most common reaction that I've gotten when I tell just normal people, not even tech people, like this is what I'm building, it's like surprise, shock, like how, like they're just like, they don't understand like how I'm doing this, why I'm doing this, like what is it that I'm doing. And when I talk to tech people, it's also like the same expression, but in a like they've heard this story before, but they're like, why aren't you building a tool? What is like, why are you thinking that you could enter this system because you haven't worked for Google or like Facebook, or like what makes you think that you belong to our world? You know, it's like that. Those are the questions that like wander in my head when I'm having interactions with people. Like that's how I get their impression is like that. So, yeah.
Why are you actually like? Do you want to talk about the fact that what is like? What was the reason that you wanted to enter this? Because I feel like you have been a podcast producer for a long time, and obviously, if you were going to enter the tech world, this is your place. And you like when I talked to you initially about like thinking of like having a company, and we talked about like possible options, and one of the ones that we continuously thought about and talked about was like creating a new podcast platform, was because like you know so much about the details of the podcasting world. So what is it that you want to explore for yourself, like personally here?
That's a really good question. So like I explained earlier, like I came from like the left, like I don't know, on Twitter they call like left coded. Like everything about me is left coded. The way that I dress, the opinions that I have, the passions and interests that I have are like very left coded. And I guess I would just attribute it to time. So
Like being a Gen Z.
yeah, no, like when I was like 16, right? Everyone was talking about climate change and doing better for the planet, and it was popular to be a vegetarian. I grew up in California, so like all of these things were really cool.
Yeah.
And I was like treated as special for not eating meat, recycling, playing guitar, listening to like indie music and like old style music, like having these kinds of passions. And it wasn't really that cool to like be a gamer girl yet, or be like I don't know, like a podcast producer. Like none of that was cool. But I was a cool person. Like, I don't know, is that narcissistic? Like people thought I was cool. Because I had passions that aligned.
I don't think that's narcissistic.
Yeah, I had passions that aligned with like the culture then. And that culture was leftist, because we had like the right was just only talking about abortion rights and money and conservative beliefs, and like they were racist and, you know, all the things that like politicians would say. I would say that was pretty accurate for that time, that our options were either like a free society or a restricted society. And I always wanted to go towards freedom, liberation of women's rights and minority rights and all of that. With technology changing, I would say that it's not so clear, the lines of what's cool and not cool, and what's good for society and not good for society. The lines got really blurry. And
when? Like what time period you're talking about here?
I mean, I can only talk from personal experience.
Sure.
Like, so if I go back to Trump's election is like the thing that comes into my mind first. And Trump was elected and everyone was sad. Everyone was disappointed. Everyone was mad. I was part of it. I was like a part of the protests where we would like block him from entering like stages to speak in the Bay Area. I was like that much of a leftist, like going to protests regularly. And all of my friends were kind of doing that too. And I was going to a school that was like more of a like liberal arts and human oriented instead of technology oriented, like something like MIT. You know, I would say that my school was like the MIT of diversity.
You mentioned a lot of things about the right being bad. And I agree with like those things one-sidedly cannot define a good society. But I feel like at least the right wing that I'm in touch with in San Francisco right now, it's not a right wing really. Like, I don't think anyone claims that they're right wing, but their ideas are, well, yeah, capitalism works way better than socialism. We should have like equal balance between man and woman in society, not try to create any like supremacy among like any of the genders. And it's like a lot of stuff like this. That is right coded. They actually don't act like the right that you're describing right now. They're acting like more of like the people who understood the left, took the good things out of it, and then now like they're like, okay, like this current system is actually fucking with a lot of things here, and we're trying to progress the society towards a better society, and that's why we are on the right side of the spectrum. Is that how you look at it right now if you compare the old right to the new right?
I wouldn't call those people right.
Okay. Do you call me right?
No.
Okay.
It's more like anti-establishment or pro-tech or so we talk about right and left, meaning politicians, right? And the people that you just described know that politicians are dumb and they're stupid and they don't do anything for society, right?
Okay.
They're conscious of that. They're not like, oh, I'm pro Trump or I'm pro whoever is red, you know?
Yes.
They're smart enough to know that politics is like a way of just tricking society into thinking you have a choice.
No, I totally agree with you, but I think like majority of the people are bipolar in their political beliefs. And I think in that spectrum, they just categorically put you towards like, I have like seen a lot of people that are on the left side of the spectrum and they call me rightist, but I agree with you. Like, I don't consider myself like someone on the right. Maybe in today's politics, I'm more right leaning, but I definitely don't believe in a lot of the things that right believes in.
But the point is that the left has not discovered that yet.
Why is that? Does that go back to the circle of the meritocracy?
The leftists are in power right now. We're moving towards socialism politically. We're moving towards leftist ideology economically. It's causing a lot of problems.
Wow,
in
do you really
society.
think that that's just happening?
Yeah. You don't think so?
What
all of the money is in like mental health and like projects to improve human life, which is really dumb because that's not where money is coming from. Money is coming from big tech.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in big tech, you will always be poor. That's just like how money is working right now.
Yeah.
So the government putting all of this money into these side projects to empower people to do things that were in the past is creating a huge problem for people. It's a new system of oppression.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize it. People don't know that yet.
Yeah.
They think they're finally getting the keys to the kingdom, and guess what? That kingdom was passed down. They're starting a new kingdom over here. You got to be a part of this kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And it's they're putting their chips all into AI right now. Like,
yeah.
we
all
had
of the money is going into AI.
Yeah.
There's not like, I don't think there's an investor out there that's not putting money into AI right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard something around like half of Y Combinator's investments were in AI, which is last year for the last batch, which is like crazy to me.
mm-hmm.
Because that didn't happen that far back. It's
Yeah.
like it's been almost a year. It hasn't been like a full year cycle that we are like wrapped around the new AI world. Yeah, that is crazy.
So that's why I said like they're not right, because like left still feels like they have their political ideology aligned with what the government is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like they're still like fuck Biden and like fuck all of these like capitalist systems and stuff like that, but they're still cashing welfare checks. They're still like screaming about the government.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't like gone and like built a new system that's better, which the right is doing that.
Yeah.
Which they're not the right. Like maybe they're going to be the new left, in like 10 years. Who knows?
I totally do believe that if you give any political party a power for a period of time, they will start abusing their power.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, we had 2 terms, Obama, and then one break with like Trump, but we went back to having another Democrat, which usually, at least like in the political, like 30 years of the politics of the US, we have been pretty much like balanced between 8 years of like Republican and 8 years of like Democrat, and just like doing this kind of like fair game that is not happening right now. So it's like the lenience towards left, especially among like people our age, like in the Gen Z, is a lot more than like any other generation that we could think of. Because like I grew up listening to millennials, and they had some leftist ideas. They're called liberals now. They're not even leftist anymore. It's like that's even a different political ideology that is kind of like expired, and left grew out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say between Trump's election and like AI, I've further and further gone towards this new mentality of like, oh, these leftist systems are not benefiting anyone. Like under Biden, we had war, we had inflation, we had all of the problems that we thought that the right was causing, but they're still happening. This didn't solve anything. And we don't have more rights either. Like we got our abortion rights taken away. There's no restrictions lifted on immigration, except for maybe immigrants that are going to join the workforce of America, which is creating a whole nother issue that we can even just not get into. But
maybe the whole episode,
episode
needs to be dedicated to that, because it's definitely something that we do see as like, I don't know, like a lot of problems are being caused by that.
Yeah.
And the policy of just, I don't know, like I think like the society is going through a lot of different changes in different directions. And it's very sad that we see a lot of people one by one, like falling off of the, like speed of catching up with the new changes in the world, because it's definitely too much for one person in their lifetime to experience all of these like ups and downs, especially like if you are a Gen Z, like you already grow up with an idea of like, you talked about it, like climate change and all of the big issues of like our generation, that we were going to be trying to solve them. And not only we couldn't like contribute to that, it's just like the world moved towards a different direction. And I'm very happy about like where we're at least where I'm at, where we're like, when I'm at like living in San Francisco, like being in touch with a lot of people that do have the consciousness of like, like we still do really need to keep all of the standards of treating women equally. We still need to keep all of the standards of treating human beings in the society with a level of, okay, like I trust you and I understand you, and we want to build a good world. But there's still like a lot of fights that are happening that I'm like, why are we exactly paying taxes on what?
What is the military? Why do we have that if we're still having wars?
Like what is going on that like the economical situation in the US is like constantly like getting tougher for businesses to initiate a bit, like, a new branch or anything that would be good for them, because the money is more expensive. A lot of these things.
Yeah. I think that it's really challenging to see when you look at someone and they're like a tech bro or like a tech person. There's like two sides to the story. Like, okay, are you someone who like treats their girlfriend like trash and loves the system because you benefit off of it, and like nerds out about things that are not mattering to like the growth of humanity and just mattering to like your boss and like the ways that you make money? Or are you someone that's like genuinely passionate and excited about the inventions of things that are new to this planet? And with that mentality, I would say you can't be like really sexist or anti.
With the second mentality.
Yeah, like you can't love human innovation and want to also like harm humans.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just don't think that those things mix. And people are like really hard to read right now because I'm wondering like, okay, which side are you on? And then there's like a lot of leftists too still in my life that I'm like, also, which side are you on? Because if you're not on the human innovation side and like pro AI for humans, for like us to get money and to like have a sustainable future, like why? Whose side are you on? No one from the left is going to come and save you. Yeah. You're responsible for making enough money to live. This is survival. Yeah. So it's just like, it's frustrating because I feel like I don't have a tribe yet, and I want to be on that human innovation side, but it's like,
well, you're
still forming.
You're transitioning.
It's not there yet.
Yeah, totally. You're transitioning into a new world. So like the fact that you don't have a tribe is very understandable. I think I didn't expect you to want to become a tech co-founder because of like,
because I don't want to become a tech co-founder as we know now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking for the future when that is accessible to normal people that didn't spend 10 years at Google coding.
That's totally true. And it's like, that's the part that I know about you now. It's the part that tech is not for you to define your personality as one. tech is the best way, the best mean that we have right now for people to contribute to betterment of humans.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are missing out on the fact that tech can be really good. And actually, where are the people that wanted to change the world to use these systems? They can actually use it. Like I really missed the. There was like, I was a kid during that time, but I missed the free internet. Like now I'm trying to build Mellow, and all of the options in front of me for cloud computing, for like storing information on online. It's just like all of the routes goes into like 5 big players like Amazon, Google, like Microsoft. And it's just like if you go deep down on so many levels, this is not free. This is not for the people. You can't really like try to build for the people within the structures of like all of these companies defining how you should work within that structure. And I think it's just frustrating because
we could have a whole episode on like how design is so easy that like people made like hundreds of thousands of dollars on like templates of things, just selecting things just because like regular humans didn't know anything about the system. And now that I'm like going and designing a platform, I'm like, oh my God, this person like doesn't know how to use tools at all. Like they just like they made a square and they put a photo in the square. And that was their app. Like, it's so frustrating to me that we could do so much with design in apps and everyone just use fucking templates. It's just like, we'll do an episode about that because that was like so gatekeeped.
Yeah.
And like any woman who wants to enter tech, you should enter design because it's fun and like no one is doing it.
Like giving messages to your tech girlies.
Yeah. I need like people to like be like, hey, like I believe in what you believe in, let's hang out, because I feel like there's not enough people who like want to actually talk about the future of humanity and they just want to hate on like systems that don't even have any relevance anymore.
It's hard to be a rebel in
like,
2024.
Why are we talking about elections? Like go build a company, like go do something that creates like a system that is better.
Yeah,
that's what we need. That no politician is going to create any good thing for this planet.
I think the age of politics is over, totally. And if you're smart, you would try to change things with tech in a way that you want to see the world. And I believe in a lot of people want to see a good world. But we gotta stop accepting shit from the people that are not credible.
And we have to redefine what is credible, because I'm looking at these lists of like, I went to Stanford and I worked at Facebook and I have this much money. Like, that doesn't make you credible to like build something for humans.
Yeah. No, I actually think
we saw what you did to the world. We all watched. Yeah. You're a part of really bad systems that destroyed the working class, you know?
Yeah.
Get out of tech. Go do something that is not supporting those systems. Use your knowledge for a better Earth.
Totally.
Yeah. What tribe are you a part of?
I am part of the tech tribe, actually. Like I went to engineering school and I always believed in technology. I worked at startups that were, I worked at a VR AI startup and I worked at a climate tech startup. And I think all of those were like the cutting edge technology of their time. So I have like a desire to keep myself within the most interesting part of technology, because this is what I am passionate about. I have tried a lot of things in life. Like I had a very like colorful childhood. I experienced life to the fullest. And this was like how I decided to form like all of my life around the beliefs that technology is going to be the best means for us in the modern society to improve human lives. And I genuinely do believe in a lot of good things have come out of technology, like the fact that we have citizen journalism right now. It's a very powerful tool that we never had access to that as humanity. The fact that I can talk to my parents far away, like remotely online, that they can see me, they can see what I'm doing, they can see this podcast. It's very amazing because like that's I'm not trying to be like too cheesy about like the way that I'm describing tech. I think I'm going to the basics because we always forget the basics and we just get too convoluted with the thoughts of like what actually tech is just bringing to our lives. And I haven't been a big fan of social media, but I am growing to understand that it is going to be part of our lives. The hybrid like cyborg lifestyle that we have acquired over the past 15-ish years. And it's here to stay. So let's make it better. Let's make it safer. Let's make it an environment that, and honestly, I do hope Mello will be one of those platforms. I do want Mello to be one of those platforms because I'm tired of like using old systems all the time. And I think we're within the tech, like, of society. We need to invent new things. We need to allow new blood to come to the surface, and we need to allow young people to be trendy again. Because young people do have a lot of power and understanding, because people think that you need a lot of experience. You mentioned it earlier. Like a lot of people with that meritocracy mentality are like, oh, like, well, going to a big school is going to put you in an environment that there's a lot of big players and there's a lot of intelligent people and the education system is refined and like prepares you for a better world. But I personally, as someone who went to the best school in my country, I think like that's bullshit. That does not have any merits. And I feel like if you're smart, you would choose to be a gullible person if that's being a gullible person. If not wanting to like, go to like a big name university because like you don't believe in like going through the system like that, or like wanting to work for like a big tech company. Why would I want it to work for a big tech company if I one day wanted to build my own startup? If I had the chance, like I had the chance to, the first startup that I worked at, team of 10 people, super small. I was like one of the founding members of that startup.
VR too, right?
Yeah, it was AI and VR. And it's like, it was the best experience that I could have. I would just get dissolved in the environment of Facebook or Google if I would go work for those companies. And I wanted to be a tech founder and like start my own company. So I wanted to be part of like a smaller like a growing company. And the second company that I also worked for, I developed their whole like operations over the course of like 3 years. This is like, that was a company that I joined, which was like less than 30 people. And it grew to like 200 people when I was leaving it. So it's like looking at like how your path is defined by the decisions that you're making. This doesn't make any sense that people would look at you and be like, define what milestones you have achieved based on all of this. Yeah, Harvard, a 400-year-old like university. Like, aren't we done with that mentality? Like, can't we just get rid of that already?
Whatever you taught us 400 years ago, we learned it.
Yeah.
Or let's move on. That's
and
why
like,
everyone's starting like YC, like startup kind of stuff,
Yeah, I encourage if you go online and see like what actually like is the like all of the auditoriums that they teach kids in, and it's just like literally piece of history. Like, how the fuck can I like learn to, like, I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of things that doesn't work like that.
You kind of gave me some confidence because I was feeling like I was looking at lists of VCs to pitch our startup idea to. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much meritocracy and like what they look for. It's like all the people who worked there, they have like Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, like on their profiles, and worked for like LinkedIn, like blah, blah, blah. Like it's hard. It's like there is still gatekeeping in this society. And the people who worked for those places, I would say, yeah, you're smart and you're like, you are good at following trends and you're good at talking to humans. Like you have a lot of like, you did something to get there.
Yeah.
But I do firmly believe that there was a culture that company had that you learned to get into that culture. And that culture is dead.
It's dead, and that's why we're building it.
That's why with AI, that culture has no like credibility.
No.
There's no credibility. You don't have to work hard to build a company because AI will work hard for you. You have to live your life. You have to understand humans. You have to know what humans want, what humans like, how humans make money, how humans want to spend their time. If you don't know any of that, you shouldn't start a company.
No.
And everyone is starting companies to build tools for corporate. And I'm like, am I the only one that just doesn't understand what's happening right now? We have like the world at our fingertips and everyone's just sitting around and just like, how can I make money? You know?
Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree with you. And I think it's fine. Like you said, those VCs, those people who worked in the past, they were part of the old world. Well, I mean, if you go back like in the 80s and 90s, like who could build in tech were the people who were part of big universities and they had access to the computers and internet and all of the coolest technology. We don't live in that world anymore. Like I believe in an indie developer more than someone who worked at Apple to join my team when I'm hiring.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of trash in your mind of what they've told you to believe in for the past however long you've been there.
Yeah.
Like I worked for a newspaper. They told me how to think. I never like could think that way and I just left.
Yeah.
You know? Because I'm like, this is not how people think. And guess what? Like they're not doing well because they don't know how people think.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure all of these systems are just a newer version of that. I enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I was hinting at it for a bit and didn't fully think about what I was really feeling. And I think that I'm right, and I'm sorry that that offends a lot of people, but I really think that we need new systems, new blood, young people to build things, and that's not going to happen with this like whole meritocracy system. It's not going to happen with like tribalism. It's not going to happen when you're just like, oh, I'm a leftist, I don't believe in tech. Like that's not going to do any good for humans. Like you got to take the trend, make it your own, build something that you want to see in the world. And that's going to bring you happiness. That's going to bring you what you want out of life. Doing anything else is just, you're just wandering around lost. Like I see a lot of people and they look lost.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I want to see mostly young people understanding that their life is, I want a lot of young people to understand that they can make decisions for themselves, and we should start talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's hurting us. Like this isolation, this self-created isolation that we're going through. I want to talk about isolation in one episode, but this self-created isolation that we're going through is really hurting us, and this is the most important part of any generation. We gotta stand up for ourselves. Love it.
All right.
Thanks for listening to us.
Thanks for listening.
Is that the end?
Yes.
Okay, cool.